Thank you, Rob. I'm not always sure about the inspiration, but I do have a couple little comments to make this morning. So welcome everybody to this opportunity to gather at what we call our open table, where we invite everybody to join the effort to end homelessness in Pierce County. Our table is set on the traditional homelands of the Puyallup tribe of Indians, and we acknowledge our debt to their stewardship of this region and to the need for action in addressing the continuing effects of historical trauma. Today, I want to remind us of the importance of this commitment to openness by honoring the work of a group that started small in Tacoma and is now a major provider of care and hospitality in Western Washington. The month of May is designated by the country as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, recognizing the contributions and influence of Asian Americans and Pacific Islander Americans to our cultural experience. During this polarized political time, where differences are too often seen as threats rather than strengths, and when Asian Americans have faced increased harassment and discrimination, I want to call out a group whose stated mission is to provide multicultural, multilingual human services, regardless of race or ethnic background, to diverse communities through education, socialization, advocacy, and support. The Korean Women's Association, or KWA, began in 1972 as a gathering of a small group of Korean immigrant women who sought community with others like themselves, literally sharing food and stories of the challenges they faced in the new country. The impressive history of their group is a testimony to the power of transforming the experience of isolation into a community that has a much broader base, seeing common human needs and knowing we can meet them. KWA opened their table 50 years ago, and after those small beginnings, have expanded their services to all of Western Washington through 15 offices in 17 counties with over 1,500 employees, responding to the diverse needs of more than 10,000 people every year. As part of their commitment to housing for vulnerable populations, KWA recently received $36 million in funding, including a HUD 202 Capital Advance Funding Award and low-income housing credits to develop 88 units of housing at 15th and Tacoma Avenue. The project will set aside units for frail elderly, seniors who are veterans, and people who have been experiencing homelessness. The project is set to be completed in 2024. Open tables and dedicated collaborators clearly make things happen. Pierce County is fortunate to have the presence of KWA and can learn much from their efforts. I don't know if there's anyone here today who works with or has partnered with KWA, but if so, feel free to add a brief comment either in the chat or during the introductions time, which we'll do shortly. So that's my message for today, honoring the work of a group that obviously has contributed much to our region. So let me just say about our meeting, we have a group of norms that we follow as we work together, and we ask all of ourselves to mute ourselves when we're not speaking, to use the Zoom's raise hand feature when we want to speak, and take up some time, but not take up too much time when we do. Limit distractions by turning off the video when we're doing something other than paying attention to what we're all saying. And then importantly, to use the chat as a really important resource to share information about what we're up to, what we'd like to know more about, or questions that we may have, in addition to any questions you may have about any presentations. So with that, I'd like to open us up to introducing ourselves if we're new here or returning after some time away, or if anyone, excuse me, has comments related to the Korean Women's Association. To do that, and you just raise your hand and we'll begin. I don't see any hands today. Maybe we're all back or wanting to just put our information in the chat. Maybe there's, I don't know if you see anyone, Rob?
I don't currently.
Okay, well, I have to say, I was kind of surprised to hear about this new funding that the Korean Women's Association received. So I'm happy to know that we'll have some more housing. And I do see Melissa's hand up.
Good morning, everybody. I have been in the meeting before, but it's been quite some time, and I was with Optum Care or Northwest Physicians Network, and now I'm the behavioral health specialist with East Pierce Fire and Rescue. So just wanted to say good morning and tell everybody about my new role. Thanks for
Welcome
having
back
me.
and congratulations on your role.
Thank you.
All right, Rob. Well, I don't see any other hands right now, so I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Rosemary. And I can't remember if you talked about the community norms, but I did post those as well in the chat. So if you have an opportunity to read through those, that would be helpful. And let's move on and have a great meeting this morning. So our first item on the agenda is the same item that we do every week, and that is to talk about what people are seeing this week on the streets. The intent of this section of the meeting is to allow people to share changes that are taking place on the streets, updates related to any scheduled sweeps, which we know that there's one scheduled to happen next week, that the city of Tacoma is going to do on South 11th between 10th and 11th from M to MLK. So I cede the floor to anyone who has new information to share about what they're seeing on the streets this week, and we'll get started with Jeffrey.
Good morning. I did get a chance to visit 34th and Pacific last week, or this week, I should say. They're doing quite well. Let's see, 20-ish people are there. It's a mix of car campers and tent campers with cars. And they seem to be doing pretty well. I did drop off some garbage bags and some lights. They're in pretty good shape overall. I also stopped in on the mound to talk to a couple of people up there. They are 7 tents with 7 people who just frankly want to be left alone. But that's my week out there.
Thank you. And I just dropped a description of where the mound is for folks in the chat. Monique, I see your hand up.
Yeah, good morning. First, I want to give a special shout out to Jeffrey Boyce. He is at the village every single Monday, sometimes twice a week, giving me his support. I just want to thank you, Jeffrey. Now, the update for the camp. We still have no power. We are supposed to have power on the 21st. However, they brought a generator out there yesterday. I missed a phone call yesterday from Caleb, who asked me if I wanted to go back to my ideal of gradually bringing people in now before we get power. I did not get a chance to talk to him, and he is off today, but I left a message with Allison. I would like to do that. So the plan is for Monday to just start slowly bringing some of those people in, and then Saturday we should have power, and then we can just go ahead and go. So I'll keep you posted on that, whether we start bringing them in on Monday. And then Jeffrey,
That's
if you
fantastic.
could, thank you. If you could contact me, Jeffrey, so we can talk food again.
Yeah, that's great news. Teresa, you have your hand up.
I have a comment, but I have a question first for Monique. Can you just say what this electrical holdup has been? Because it's really incomprehensible that you keep being told that it's going to happen on Friday. So can you say what it is that's caused this delay?
Well, I totally can't speak to all of it. That would probably be for the city. However, I do know towards the end here, there had been some confusion about what was supposed to be powered. The power company knew that they had to power the office trailer, but we have a shower trailer that is across the village that needs power and propane to run it. And then we have the kitchen tent that needs power for the refrigerator, microwaves, etc. So there was some confusion there. Apparently yesterday, they figured all that confusion out, and next Saturday, the power folks are coming on their day off to hook up that power for us. So next Saturday should have it. I don't know any more about why it happened, before this confusion. That would be a question for Tacoma.
All right. Well, please do keep us updated on anything you need. Are you going to be out there today?
I will be out there today. As soon as I get off the phone call here, I'll be out there.
All right. So my comment, I want to just mention Kevin Ruby, who works for the city, to say sometimes it's good to report the good news. Folks came by from the city on Wednesday and were really incredibly respectful and caring about the people who are living on our block. They collected a bunch of garbage. There was some confusion about why the big black can was taken away from this encampment. Now it's going to come back. And there was, if you have a chance, if there's a cleanup crew that's coming to your neighborhood, have a conversation with them if you are able, because what I found from all the people who come by here is that they're very deeply caring people. They're just trying to make things better for everybody. So anyway, shout out to Kevin Ruby, who does an excellent job and is a good communicator, and glad to have them in our neighborhood.
Thank you, Teresa. And others with, I see Gerald with his hand up, and then Richard.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just want to kind of engage our involvement with the participants who came from the lighthouse that we're housing. It's more of kind of not a statement, but more of a general question or idea or something that's laying out to us. Because we have them over there and we're housing them, we're trying to get them moving. They appear to be folks that was kind of lost to the homeless system, right? Because most of them was not in the HEMIS system and things like that. I'm trying to figure out how can the coalition, or how can we impact this, right? Because we're getting a lot of pushback, counter from the county or whoever, because we're trying to get them into the system, into the HEMIS system. And because we can't tie them to a project because we're waiting to be funded for our future project that we have for rapid rehousing, it's hard to get them in there. I know that's not a question we can answer here, but I think we have to do something as a coalition to get that knowledge or information out, that everyone that we pick up from street, no matter what it is, whether it's from a street sweep or a place that people have been living, such as the lighthouse, and now they're being displaced again, that it's not always a funding drive. It's not always a clear-cut answer to how to move these folks. We have to be creative in what we do. So we have to figure a way to get this information out to say, hey, listen, everything is not cut and dry where you go to a tent and pull someone out of a tent. But you have to work with us as the city, as the county, as whatever agency, to help us get the folks in the position they need to be. Because for us, we can't keep them in our building forever. We want to move them to the next step in housing. We're giving them supportive services. But if it's not a collaboration between us, city, county, we can't move folks. And we're going to continue to lose folks, and people are going to continue to be put on the street, And I don't know if anyone else has to deal with things like that, but we chose to do this, and we will continue to do it. But right now, I guess this is me, you never heard me frustrated, but a little frustrated, because pushback is coming back, and I'm trying to get people into a HEMIS system, and everything is as if we're trying to do something illegal. We're trying to help people. And I think that's something we need to talk about and have an impact on, and help, push this process along. And remember, there are people out there that's like this now. My rambled comment for the day.
Well, thanks, Gerald. That might be a conversation that we need to have as a breakout or one of the sessions here in an upcoming meeting, so that we can talk about what you're experiencing as roadblocks and hiccups in the process. I think both you and Monique, with her site starting up, could share what you're experiencing and maybe what we can advocate for, changes that would help remove some of those roadblocks.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Gerald. Richard, you had your hand up.
Oh, yeah. Gerald, thank you for leading with the frustration. That takes it off my shoulders. So there will be at L&M this coming Wednesday. I sent a request to the city and suggesting that instead of an after action review, that there be a action preview, and that with some coordination with the Lived Experience Coalition and others could have perhaps ease the transition of this pending sweep. Request was declined, no interest in that. I have sent out a press release and other announcements inviting people to come about 9:30 this coming Wednesday for coffee, and there will likely be donuts. But the thinking about it quite a bit is that I am not there to protest or to disrupt any of the activities. Some of that is going on in the Seattle suite. They have advocates that are called Stop the Suite. They're trying to interfere and cause disruption during those activities. I'm not trying to do any of that, but I would like to invite anybody on the call, anybody that's interested, to come and come observe it. It's fairly easygoing, and there's not a confrontation issue that's going on. It's more just observing and providing support to the people being swept from this encampment. My concern with this encampment, this is the 11th encampment that I will witness being swept since last fall. And this may be a bridge too far. This is a lot of people that have been out for a long time. And the perpetual question of where are they supposed to go hangs in the air. So come on out if you can on Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. And I'll plan to come out and join you once again as well. So others with their comments about what's happening on the streets. Erica, I see your hand up.
Hi, I just wanted to touch base on that. I believe that was it Gerald that was speaking?
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to say that I also think that the outreach to the community isn't being touched as well as it should. And I wanted to just ask about your guys' referral programs and see, I have a lot of resources, so just connect with me on referrals and marketing these resources, because you know, they don't have the internet access like we do our phones or certain resources to get this information. So I want to collaborate on how we can do that. I also sit on the board for Midland, Parkland, Spanaway Community Council. And for the event on Wednesday, I can reach out to Cindy for press. She works for the News Tribune, and she does everything on building, zoning. So I think that the homeless co-ops that are going up, she could start attending this and maybe that meeting as well to get us further into the press, just to try and get that outreach that we need. So I have that resource I'm going to put in. I'm going to talk to her first, and then I'll come back on the call and confirm her information for that.
Okay, thank you, Erica. I will reach out and drop my information for you. I'm driving now, so I will reach out and send you my information as well.
Thank you, Gerald, and I love the back and forth there. So anyone else with items for what they're seeing on the streets before we close this section of the meeting? I do want to call attention to the question that Richard dropped in the chat. So if folks have ideas for resources for that situation, please please respond to Richard. Lavada, I see your hand up.
Okay, good morning. One of the issues that I seen over the weekend, I had to call the city of Tacoma to remove feces from a business parking lot where the homeless used it as a bathroom. And since I was in connection with a hazardous certified person, I called that person to remove that because the city is backlogged in doing their 311 tasks, and it was going to take them about 9 days to get out there in that parking lot to remove that. So the homeless person didn't have anywhere to go. They just moved from parking lot to parking lot, trying to find a safe place to sleep. And I think there's some other issues there with that person. And the outreach, I was trying to get an outreach for that person instead of just telling them to go away. And I didn't have anything except for 211, and they don't answer my calls anymore.
Oh no.
Yeah, they got my number blocked. So I have 3 telephones, and they blocked all those numbers. So I'm at a loss as a entrepreneur business owner, where my business is suffering because of the homeless population doing things to the small business community.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your reaching out and trying to help others. And I am gonna just so you know, Lavada, there's a lot of background noise where you're at, so I'm gonna thank you for muting your mic, but I appreciate you sharing that. All right, so let's shift to the next item on our agenda, and that is our community spotlight section. And we invited Davina Schwab from the Tacoma Rescue Mission to come talk with us about outreach. So Davina, you ready to share with us?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So we just wanted to kind of share something new that we are doing. A new initiative is that we are going out on Wednesdays to the Key Peninsula and Gig Harbor area. We originally started with helping with the point in time count, and we realized there's a need for outreach services out in that area. It was a little difficult to connect with people because if you're not sure about that area, it's a more transient population. So a lot of people living in their cars. It's oftentimes hard to know if you're on private property or public property. So what we've been doing is partnering with some food banks out there and setting up every Wednesday at various food banks where people would come and get services. And we have been able to connect with a few people. The biggest thing right now is just getting the word out that we're out there and building that trust with individuals. Let me see, what else can I say about that? Yeah, that's basically what we're doing. There is a need. It's been a little bit of a pushback because it's different, right? So there's different ideas of some stigma that if we're out there, we're like, gonna start attracting people, but what they need to know is they're out there, right? And there's people that need services. We're seeing a lot of families out there. We're seeing a lot of aging adults, and we're also meeting people that are at risk for losing their housing. So there's a lot of that going on right now. The more that we meet the community and community members and community partners, the stronger that relationship is we're building that relationship, and it's just it's beautiful now. We're getting less and less pushback as soon as they meet us and they see what we're all about and know that we're there to help and not change. Yeah, I don't know. So sorry.
No, that's great. So Davina, do you have a sense of how prevalent homelessness is out in that area where you're doing outreach? And Bob might want to weigh in too. But also, how the people you're serving on the Key Peninsula and Gig Harbor Peninsula differ from the folks that you're serving in the rest of the county. If you're seeing, if homelessness is being experienced differently out there.
I would say it's definitely as prevalent as it is here, but it's not as in your face, right? So it's more hidden. I think that the individuals that we have met blend into the regular community. So you wouldn't necessarily have the same observations as you would here. Like you can kind of tell by some of the things they may carry or some of the way that they act, but out there it's more, they blend in more, right? So it's more of a rural area, and then there's a lot of I've noticed that there's a lot of shame attached to the people that are experiencing homelessness out there, so they try to hide and just stay away. So it's really, right now, it's so crucial that we're building that trusting relationship with the people that we're interacting with out there.
Yeah, thank you for that. Bob, is there something you would add or like to say about this new outreach?
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Davina and her team are doing an exceptional job. There's just no other way to explain it. As she mentioned, they started out to build relationships and sort of educate the community. What I've personally noticed, and our coalition has noticed, is that in addition to the homeless people that they may meet and are starting to build relationships with, they are getting, Davina, I'm gonna guess at about 8 to 10 calls per week from the community, from individuals who are working with families. I think I'm talking to you 2 or 3 times a week about mostly women who are now found living in their cars. They're new to us, coming to us through the food banks. And Davina and her team immediately reaches out to them. There is a solidifying connection, and they're brought into our little community safety net group, which includes the Fish Food Bank and Gina's Children's Home Society in Chapel Hill, and just we're helping them. And Davina's been able to provide that other side, all the other services, and then we can release because we know they're in great hands. And that's the other thing, is that we'd lose contact with these people before. They would just disappear and as Davina says, kind of fade back into that half-mile dirt road that goes into the woods. And now we're able to probably stay in connection with, I'm going to say 30% more than we used to. So it's going to get better, but it's really exceptional now. So thank you, Davina, Dabi, and Emma.
So I have attached, what we're doing right now is we are going month to month. So we're kind of assessing the needs, where the heavy, where more people are accessing the food banks, will kind of change our hours. So what I'm doing is doing month to month scheduling, and I put in the chat our contact information for our team, as well as our May schedule of what places we're going to be at. And we're hoping to, right now we're doing, about 4 hours out there. What we're hoping to do is meet with more community agencies where we can set up and spend the entire day out there.
Fantastic. So I see 3 folks with their hands up, so let's get through those. Teresa, I see yours up first.
So first of all, thank you all so much for heading out to the Key and Gig Harbor, because that is kind of no man's land, as Bob can attest to. So you are like the front line. And I want to ask, I don't know if you have any thoughts right now or if this will come later, and please come back if it does come later, but there must be some ways that you are seeing some gaps that maybe organizations that are involved with this group might be able to step into. So please bring those forward when you find them, and let us help with your efforts to get some services out to people who are in that space. And also the outreach to the community, you're really right on about how important that is. And I'm appreciative of the fact that you're taking attention and time with that. So also please let us know. I'm offering Lori here as the great person who's really good at conveying things with images. And if you need some materials that are specific to that area, please let us know and we'll see what we can come up with. Thank you.
Great. And Jan, your hand's up.
Yes, I am wondering, Tacoma Rescue Mission does so much, and many of us rely on Tacoma Rescue Mission for all the resources that they provide. Davina, I have your phone number as the search and rescue van driver. So if we're out in the community and somebody needs a ride and it's not anything that the Tacoma Fire Department van can handle as far as picking up somebody in an encampment and getting them to care, is there another search and rescue van with TRM and another driver, or do, I mean, I've got your name and your cell phone, but if you're going to be in the harbor on Wednesdays, that we just need to duplicate, you know, like 1,000 Davinas and TRMs to make the world a better place. So what is your, who can we call for rides?
So we want to be very intentional with verbiage here. So we offer transportation if it is to shelter, or if we are working with the individual on meeting goals. So that's the only kind of transportation that we offer. So if you met somebody that was in an encampment that needed to come into a shelter, you could call us. You could call, I put our information in the chat. So right now we have the outreach that is during the day, and then we have search and rescue team that is in the evenings, where we are working on expanding our program. So and we're in the middle of hiring a couple people. So during the day, we will end up having 2 vans, which one would be out in the KP and one would remain in Tacoma, Lakewood, wherever we're working that day. And then we're hoping to also expand the search and rescue so that we have 2 as well, so that we are covering every day of the week, 24 hours a day. So we're working on that. But in the meantime, you could use the contact sheet that I put in the chat. Search and rescue is after 4, and the outreach team is from 8 to 4. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Davina.
And what we're really trying to, what we're hoping to see moving forward as we establish kind of a place out there in the KP and Gig Harbor area is that we would have partners join us, maybe have a van that could come out and possibly do some kind of services, because I believe that the more we have in one area for people to come to, the more we're going to attract those individuals.
Thank you for that. And Jay has her hand up, and then Erica, and then Bob.
Hi, Davina. Thank you for everything that you do. One of the things that I've noticed living out here is we are starting with every sweep to get some of the people that I recognize from MLK and downtown starting to panhandle out here at some of our local grocery stores and stuff like that. And we're getting a huge influx of daytime theft from Tacoma and daytime use. Like, people will come over here on the bus during the daytime and panhandle and do things, and or rob a store and then head back to Tacoma. And that has been something that's recent in the last month in particular, but stores are starting to get hit almost every day, and things are starting to get a little iffy out here. Somebody actually shot someone else and accused them of stealing, even though they weren't, because of the amount of theft that we're having.
Thank you for that. And Erica.
Going back to the transportation and seeking resources, I can follow up on this because I haven't looked into it since pre-COVID, but if any encampments are helping with state services when you onboard, like Medicaid and the public assistance, the local DSHS office offer ORCA cards for public transportation. And I know that if it's any behavioral, mental health, medical appointment, that you can actually have the public transportation come and do pickups by appointment. So every encampment should probably get on board with that for the transportation if you haven't already. And I'll confirm by next week that they're still offering that, because this was pre-COVID, but it's been around for so long. I wouldn't see why they would cut that transportation. So, okay.
Thank you, Erica. And Bob.
Yeah, thanks. Just a quick note referencing Davina's work in including other partners to come out to Gig Harbor and the KP. For several months, we've had very nice offers from Peninsula Community Health, who has a mobile medical dental van, and Community Health Services to provide mobile on-site services. So Davina's going to coordinate that with her visits, and we're going to be focusing the use of those groups and community health fairs as well. So we're getting any offers we get through our little coalition here to provide services. We refer back to Davina at this point. She's the TRM's the pro there. They know how best to organize it. So that's it. There's just a lot of good progress. So thanks.
Thank you, Bob. And thank you again, Davina, for being willing to join us this morning. A lot of good information, and we love to hear about the good work spreading to the rest of the county.
Thank you for having us.
Great. And if folks have additional questions or comments for Davina, I don't know if you can hang out for a few minutes, but the chat's available for that, and a great resource there. And we are going to shift to our next item. And what I wanted to do is carve out just a few intentional moments to talk about this encampment mapping project that is just getting started. Richard, do you want to talk about this idea that you've been pursuing?
Yes, thank you. Essentially, it came about with the inclement weather idea coming from last year, and my involvement during the cold weather was not having a efficient list of where the encampments are, and there was a lot of inefficiency where we'd be hitting the obvious encampments but missing some of the less obvious encampments. So the idea of having a up-to-date list and or map, whichever form it needs to be in, would help things be more effective. As Jan pointed out, June's only a few weeks away, and despite the cold weather recently, we could have a heat event in no time at all. And to be prepared for that, there are three pieces, it seems to me, and I know others are working on the first two, which is what is it that triggers the weather event? And that's not what I've been working on. The second is the storage of supplies. But the third is the mapping. So what I have been doing is sending the list of encampments that I see and am aware of, and an approximate number of tents, to Jeff Rogers at the county. I know Jeffrey has sent some numbers in, and my plea and my encouragement is that if you do in fact see an encampment, and it could be a single, we've got encampments in Tacoma that have been down for many months. And while they're only a single structure, I think they do qualify as being an encampment. So my request is that if you see encampment, get that information to Jeffrey. You could also CC me or Ed Jacobs. Ed's keeping a running list of this as well. And the hope and the goal is in the next coming weeks that we would have some kind of mapping that would be able to help guide not only where they are, but help us be a little more efficient as we go out to do the outreach, so that we don't have 3 or 4 people visiting the same encampment and distributing multiple supplies when we could be distributing those to more encampments and more people. So that's kind of what my push is. But But please, if you see them, call them in, or email them in, and we can get that list going to help Jeff Rogers at the county as we move further along in this mapping process. And I think Jeff may be on the call and may have some thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, real quickly, I'll just say that, yes, I'm collecting that information. We haven't decided yet if it will be a map or just a list. We're still having those conversations. So please send me any information you have. We are also working on policies and procedures regarding severe weather, both hot weather and cold weather, and creating a standard policy with regard to how we address the needs of homeless during severe weather incidences. Just so you're aware, we're working with the City of Tacoma, City of Puyallup, and City of Lakewood emergency management departments, as well as the Pierce County Department of Emergency Management in addressing these policies and procedures, trying to find common ground. Hopefully we'll have common ground, but if not, Pierce County will definitely have policies that we'll adhere to during severe weather. And lastly, I'll say that we're also having conversations about storage locations to store items that can be used during severe weather at different locations throughout the county, so that outreach staff or any folks who are going out and trying to outreach to folks in encampments have access to supplies and things they may need during the severe weather incidents. So that's a third piece of work we're working on as well.
Is this likely to be completed in the next few weeks?
I can't guarantee that that's going to be done in the next 3 weeks. We do have a rough draft of a policy we've got that's being vetted around a few people currently. More to come, I guess, is what I would say.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. And I see Jan's hand up, and then Bob.
Jeffrey, does the county know, does Human Services know that the coalition has kept working on an emergency distribution network system, and we've invited several partners to be part of this distribution system for inclement weather and adverse weather effects, because of a sense of silence, of knowing where we are, where the government is in the response to inclement weather and adverse weather events. So why is the coalition not invited to the table in this planning session?
That's a great question. I will take that question back and I will get back with you on that.
Thank you, Jan and Jeff and Bob, your hands up.
Yeah, Jeff, if you could give me an update. We had been talking with several churches in the outlying areas on the KP and Gig Harbor about being more neighborhood inclement weather shelters, because the one we have in Gig Harbor, which is Chapel Hill Presbyterian Church, is really an emergency DEM focused shelter. We were asked to put our efforts on hold in talking to those neighborhood churches on the KP and Gig Harbor by the county council, won't tell you who. And now I'm concerned because, just for your information, I checked with the Gig Harbor Civic Center yesterday. I got a call back from the chief of police, which was nice of him to personally call, telling me that the Civic Center would not be open, but they would continue to use Chapel Hill as the Gig Harbor inclement weather location. I then talked to Chapel Hill, who told me nothing's been finalized. Yes, they may be open as a day shelter, but they are going to use 95 degrees Fahrenheit as the temperature trigger. I objected to that, or told them I felt that was too high. So what I guess I'm looking for is some consistent communication where we can all work together to say, if Dan Whitmarsh at Lake Bay Community Church would like to open up, he can do that at any time. But if we can provide him water and some other support, volunteers, we should have those conversations. And I feel that we're a little bit limited right now, waiting for the county. Can you give me some guidance here?
I've taken a note on that conversation as well, and I will share that as well internally.
Thank you.
All right. So, Richard or Jeff, Jeff, do you mind dropping your email in the chat so if folks do have additional locations that they can add to either the list or map, whatever develops, they have a way to do that? That would be fantastic.
And just real
Go ahead,
quickly,
Richard.
but data coming from the peninsula, I think, would give us a much more, it would give us a more robust list or map or whatever occurs. Most of the data that I have comes from Tacoma and proximity. So reaching across the peninsula, I think, would add value to whatever we come up with.
Yes, I have a list of locations, Bob, that you provided several months ago. I'll be reaching out to folks on the peninsula to get that updated. So I do have a list that was provided a few months ago that can be updated. I'm also working with some folks at Greater Lakes on areas that are out in eastern Pierce County they visit frequently to get that on the list as well. So the list is growing, working with different folks in different regions of the county who do outreach and know of locations in those areas. So Davina, if you're starting new work out there and want to share what you find when you go out, that would be great as well.
Great. And Jeff, I don't know if you've talked to Todd, who spoke to the coalition here a couple weeks ago out at the Ording Recovery Cafe, but it seems like he might have some specific ideas in the Ording area.
Okay,
Jan, I see your hand up.
I'll reach out to Todd just so you know.
Okay.
My chat is blowing up right now. Several people on this call are saying, what is going on? There are duplicate efforts going on. How is the community at large to know what the emergency planning is if we don't have the community involved? In the last two weather incidents in 2021, it was this coalition. This coalition is the one that showed up with water, with volunteers, with who does what where. I was on the phone every day, all day long during these things. I have been asking the county for some kind of a plan, and we're not even invited to the table. So I feel a letter percolating inside my brain here, but this is crazy because who is saying that they're planning and not including us, the main ones who came to the table in the last two extreme weather events. So I don't want to hear that there's planning and then tomorrow we have inclement weather and you guys are still back there planning. So I'm expecting to be invited to the table. It can go to the coalition in general. The coalition, you can have as many folks as you want. I'm sure we saved people, but it was this coalition who saved people. So I'm actually, there are a lot of people on this call who have put in a lot of time to develop a plan in the absence of government. And now you're telling us that you're doing this. What I bet there are churches out there saying, okay, we'll be part of this distribution system. Are they saying that to you, government, or to us? Are they saying it to both? I mean, do you know the conversations I've had with EFN? EFN is already committed to getting us half of a container full of water. They've not had this conversation with DEM, right? Or with the county. So I don't get it. I just don't get it.
I've taken notes on what you shared.
All right. And Bob, I see your hand up again. And if you're speaking, you're muted right now.
Sorry, man, my video camera is on the ugly mode, so it won't show me today. From what I can tell in seeing how, looking at the past DEM conversations with Chapel Hill, how the coalition has worked so hard to stress and deal with inclement weather, I think there's a difference of opinion, or we're not all on the same page versus a DEM facility and what that means when there's an inclement weather need. Are they the same locations? Are they not? We should have more. That's the conversation that I think needs to be level set before we can move forward. I just keep getting mixed messages, and to Jan's point, we had stopped looking for additional shelters. As of 9:52 today, we are back looking. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
That is a challenge. What role does DEM play? What role does Pierce County Human Services play? And those roles are going to be clearly defined within whatever policy we create. So that's coming, I guess I would say. And Jan, just so you're aware, Ed is part of our conversations representing the coalition with any of the conversation we have with our Department of Emergency Management, City of Tacoma, Lakewood, and then the representative from Puyallup. So the coalition has representation with Ed Jacobs, who's a part of those conversations.
Thanks, Jeff. I do know Ed has been attending those meetings that have been happening on Friday afternoons. So he is, I'm sure, relaying some of the concerns. It just sounds like maybe a meeting to get everybody on the same page would be worthwhile. Since it sounds like there might be some duplication happening. So I'm glad we talked about this morning. Let's, oh, I see Garrett has his hand up.
So I'm with the county on the periphery of this, but the leadership conversations have been that what Jeff is working on is something that functions outside of the Department of Emergency Management, right? DEM, Department of Emergency Management, works on big things. And the goal is that Human Services develops the ability to respond to normal cold weather and normal hot weather and normal smoke events without needing to escalate to Department of Emergency Management. And again, I'm a bit on the periphery, but that's been the clear indication from leadership, is that there may still be events that need to escalate beyond what Human Services is capable of doing through its providers. But that's the goal, is to be able to distribute water to all the encampments without needing to involve emergency management, that it's normal operations of the homeless system. So how that comes out in the policy is Jeff and his team. But on the leadership side at the county, at least, again, the goal is to have these capabilities built into the homeless system, because emergency management really is about things that don't happen normally and aren't built into normal operations. When it snows, snow plows come out, they plow the roads. That's normal operations. When it's a month of snow and the snowplow people run out of sand, emergency management comes in to help them to find sources of sand and things like that, right? That's where that's like the delineating line. So the goal is to have Human Services capable of responding to normal annual weather conditions in ways that keep everybody alive.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Garrett. So I think Jeff has heard us. There's clear desire on the part of the coalition members to be a more included part of the planning, to make sure that the folks who we've been advocating for are going to be taken care of in the next critical weather event. And so let's let this sit for now and come back to this battle next week. Jeff, maybe we can do a quick report back next week to see where this is at. All right, so let's shift to our next item on the agenda. And what do you know? We are running behind on the agenda. And I thought today was going to be a short meeting, but this is all really important conversation. So why don't we shift to do our breakout conversation right after the government updates? And since we're close to 10 o'clock, let's move into those government updates. So I did get, you may have heard earlier the mention from Monique that Caleb is out of the office today from the city of Tacoma. He is not able to join us today. However, he did send me an email last night with information that he would like me to share. So I can do that here verbally, and I can paste this in the chat after walking through these items. But what did he share? Link to the shelter temporary and emergency shelter performance page that they report to the city council, which I will drop the link in the chat. In terms of encampment outreach, his report is that the HEAL team visited 9 locations between May 2nd and 6th, which resulted in contacts with 42 people. 5 individuals were connected to resources. I am not sure if that means that they actually moved into shelter. I can ask Caleb for that clarification. There is a critical item here that I wanted to share, and it regards the services that Gerald's trying to expand at Brotherhood Rise. So on May 25th, a community meeting is going to be held with the surrounding community regarding expansion of shelter at Brotherhood Rise at 2135 MLK Junior Way. This meeting is going to be held virtually, and let me put the information here in the chat. This is a real advocacy opportunity for members of the coalition to encourage the city and community members to move forward with expansion of shelter at that site. And I don't know if Gerald is still on the call. Yeah, Gerald, you are. Do you want to say anything about this upcoming community meeting?
No, I just kind of agree with what you said. It's a good opportunity for the coalition and community members who really care to get involved to help us really put this out there, present it to the community as an opportunity to help, one, make the community more productive by being able to, house people and give them services, and to show that they can make a difference. Because those who will be building a house are people we actually are actual clients, and we've been training them on how to build those properties. And so I think it's a good look and a good push.
Great. And Gerald, that site, if I remember right from the city briefing a couple weeks ago, would expand the number of shelter spaces at Brotherhood Rise by 35 spaces. Is that right?
Well, it wouldn't expand because, we're not really a shelter, but it will be the 35 we will use for that actual area, and hopefully we can expand from there.
Okay. Great. So yeah, I do encourage folks, if they have the ability, to attend that community meeting and share your support for that project. Those are the updates that I have from the city of Tacoma. He also offered an update about the FOB Hope site, Monique's site at 82nd and Pacific Avenue. But we already heard from Monique with a even more pertinent update. So we will move on. Any questions about what was provided by the city of Tacoma? All right. So let's shift over to see, Jeff, if you have any additional updates from Pierce County Human Services.
I do, and I apologize, my camera's off, but my computer's been kind of lagging this morning, and sometimes when the camera's off, it helps. I just wanted to share that we're going to be releasing a request for proposals, also known as a RFP, for a consultant to help us provide capacity building for existing agencies interested in receiving our monies. We know that turnover within nonprofit organizations is high, and we need to ensure that the agencies that we work with are successful both operationally, programmatically, and financially. So we feel the need to provide some capacity building, technical assistance kind of work. So we're looking for a consultant to help us advance that work locally, to work with existing as well as agencies who are interested in getting our money who apply and aren't successful with that funding process. As we all know, getting money from government is the easy part, but managing and administering those governmental funds that come with a ton of regulation and requirements can be the more challenging part. So that's coming down the pipeline soon. That is the only update I have for today.
All right. Thank you, Jeff, for that update. Gerald, I see your hand up.
Yeah, quick question for Jeff. So being as an agency that's kind of new to work with the county within the last year, in that consultant work, how would that work be laid out as far as parameters, right? Because it's easy to say, okay, we'll bring a consultant in and have a consultant go to an agency and show the agency how to work with the county. But what we're experiencing is the reverse, right? The county needs to also understand how to work with that agency, because each of us work in a different way based off our vision and our model. And the bureaucracy comes in for us is when you assume that we don't know something as far as policy or understanding the spending, things like that, and that causes friction. So I think that's a great idea to bring a consultant in, but the write-up has to be equal, because the county has stepped into new territory by taking on new ventures with new organizations. In order for this to work, it's like a relationship. When you go into a relationship, you have to know each other. You have to get to learn each other. You have to understand each other's weaknesses and strengths. You can't assume that because I'm a male, which I'm not, I'm 210 pounds, but if I was a male at 145 pounds, you can't assume that I'm weak, right? You have to come in and know my strengths. So if that's the case, I think it's very valuable to lay the right groundwork and to have a clear understanding that we're trying to help communicate and connect both sides of understanding. That's what makes relationships better. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, thank you, Gerald.
I've taken some notes on that, Gerald.
All right. So any additional questions or comments for Jeff, please drop them in the chat. I just was looking at who's in our meeting today, and I don't see Valerie here from Pierce County Rental Assistance, so I don't know that we're going to get an update there. Jenny, do you want to share anything from the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. I say this every time, but I'm truly going to try and keep this short today because there's been a lot of lively discussion and would like you all to continue to be able to do that. We're continuing to try and get folks vaccinated. The data actually look pretty good. Hospitalizations are down the last week, so that's great news. We've been working on trying to raise community awareness about our Test to Treat program, and that is a program that connects folks who've tested positive, who fit certain criteria, so are vulnerable to risk of illness, connects those folks with free access to medications. If you would like more information on that, let me know. Yesterday was a really fun day. I went out into the community with our COVID vaccine nurse lead and visited 9 shelter and other service sites to meet with folks face-to-face and share resources for our COVID vaccines for the on-demand model that we're using. We shared some resources about hepatitis, talked a little about the congenital syphilis cases that we're seeing, as well as educating people on the Test to Treat program. And it was amazing. It was great. I love being out there. I love meeting face-to-face. We met some new contacts, so that's always good. And just to build relationships. And we got to hear about what folks' needs are from communicable disease division, as well as other support that the health department can offer, including an invitation to join an event that the Rescue Mission is having downtown later this month. So exciting stuff. Please let me know, excuse me, please let me know if you have questions about anything I've mentioned today or anything else. And just a reminder to anyone that might not know me or might be new to the call, I serve as a liaison between the Communicable Disease Division at Tacoma Pierce County Health Department and our homeless service providers. You can reach out to me at any time, and if I don't have answers, I'll try to connect you with folks who do. Thanks.
Thank you, Jenny, and thanks for being here every week. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Excuse me. And I don't know if we have anybody from Pierce County Department of Emergency Management on the call. I'm going to pause for a moment for that, just in case. All right, doesn't sound like we do today. So let's shuffle our deck a little bit more and shift over now to our breakout conversation. And we'll start that with a review of what we talked about last week. And Timothy, I can share the document if you'd like to kind of walk through it.
Great. So last week's question was, what do you do when you encounter someone with medical needs on the street? And there were not really a lot of direct answers to that, but there were a lot of frustrations that were shared with releases to the street and that sort of thing. There were some gaps in care that were identified and some things mentioned that people would like to see more of. Some of the general issues that came up, probably not real surprising to hear, is, people are encountering folks outside that shouldn't be outside, that should be continuing their healing. And that came up quite a bit. Some horror stories about inappropriate hospital discharges were mentioned, resistance by hospitals to treating folks who have been recently discharged, and also just difficulty in helping people follow up with their primary care in terms of getting information and knowing how to be able to help people. There was a quote here that's worth pulling out. It's very frustrating that even for someone with many years of experience in advocacy around homelessness, mental health, that people with medical conditions are not getting needed care. We know the resources to refer people to, but there may not be anything there. So it just seems like an area that needs some attention. Some of the identified gaps in care, wound care, they're probably not a big surprise to anybody. Foot care is a general issue. Some places that exist that we need more things like them were mentioned, like CLR's Park Place nursing care for homeless folks, and the RI International Involuntary Admission Center for people with mental health crises. This issue of people refusing hospitalization, medical attention due to addiction issues, and some frustration around how to deal with that. One group talked about people needing training and how to spot DV issues or trafficking issues and try to pull that out and get people help that they need. Apparently there's a medical outreach team at CMAR that's going to be coming to a coalition meeting soon. Maybe they can help inform us a bit about this. And it was mentioned that the needle exchange ban does some wound care and some foot care, but we need more things like that.
Thank you, Timothy. Anybody with additional questions or comments that they would like to share regarding our breakout from last week? Let me stop sharing this so I can see you. All right, not seeing any. Thank you again for doing this, Timothy. I've had some comments in the background about how much value it does add to have these summaries and go over last week's conversation. So it's really appreciated. Courtney, your hand's up.
Yes, it took me a second, but in addition, just a reminder, to create effective change, we need to change the system, and the initiative to the legislature that whole Washington is collecting signatures for currently is a pathway to creating the change of the system we need. You can find petitions near you via the website, wholewashington.org. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Courtney. All right, so with that review of last week's conversation set aside, so I was struggling at the end of the day yesterday to come up with what our breakout conversation should be today. And I thought, why not turn to inspiration? So let's spend the next 15 minutes talking about where are you finding your current inspiration for your work to end homelessness? As we run into these hurdles and challenges, it can be awfully easy to be discouraged, but what keeps you going? That's what I thought we could talk about in the small room breakouts this morning. So let me set up these rooms. This will be the same routine that we do every week. I'll put folks in a room with 5 or 6 other individuals. Please have at least one person take notes from the room and share those in the chat so that Timothy can pull together those notes after the fact. And we will come back to the regular meeting at 10:28. I hope everybody has a good conversation, and I will broadcast the question to the full group to the breakout rooms momentarily. Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully that was a good opportunity to network and have a conversation. Please, as a reminder, paste your notes into the chat so that Timothy can collect the knowledge of how we're all being inspired to do this work, and appreciate that. Let me take another look at my agenda. So what we have coming up next is a quick advocacy update, and I'll provide that. So what I've been doing in these advocacy updates are like describing opportunities to advocate at the city, county, and state level. This week, the Tacoma City Council, during their study session, will be reviewing their state and national legislative agenda and any updates related to that. So if you want to see what the city cares about and what progress is being made there, that update will take place during the study session. As a reminder, the study session doesn't really offer an opportunity for public comment, but it's a great place to learn because that's where the actual a lot of the business of the council takes place. Last week, or actually this week at the study session, the council heard about the House America program through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and a vote to join that program is on the agenda for Tuesday night's agenda. So if you would like to speak to that, that's an opportunity as well. Pierce County Council, their agenda for next week is not yet posted. It's posted later today. So if there's any highlights, either I or I know Sally keeps very close tags on that, what's happening with the county council as well. We did, I think it's already been discussed at the Safe Sites for All meetings regarding safe parking, and I think I'll leave that to Jan if you want to talk about what we understand is coming next from the county council regarding safe parking. And then state-wise, there's not a whole lot happening other than background conversations regarding issues related to homelessness and housing. A lot of reports from your local legislators to the constituents are happening right now. So if you have an interest in hearing from your representative and you're plugged into those updates in email, or you receive the mailing, the snail mail, there may be an opportunity to meet with your legislator in the coming weeks as they meet with constituents between sessions. So that's the quick and dirty for advocacy. Let's see, we're at 10:30. The next item on our agenda is a quick update on the Pierce County Comprehensive Plan to End Homelessness. And I know that I attended last week the advisory boards meeting, which Garrett helped at that meeting as well. I attend those meetings as a representative of the coalition, as a poor substitute for Maureen Howard, who was unable to attend. And there were a few, I would say the key items that were covered in that 2-hour meeting were updates around the implementation of the plan. And I'll outline a couple of quick highlights, and then Garrett, if you have stuff to add, that would be great. So the key items that were covered were an update on the unified regional approach, which included discussion of the request for proposal that's going to go out. There is a notification of funding availability that's planned to come out later this month. The date that was discussed there was around May 20th, with a target goal of selecting a consultant to begin work on the unified regional approach and what that should look like beginning in July, with the idea that that model and the advice will be come back to the county or to the full advisory board and to Pierce County Human Services by the end of the year. So anything you would add on that, Garrett? No? Okay. There was discussion about the expansion of navigation services, and let's see, not a whole lot of, let's see, some agencies have been identified that will be able to do that work. Approaches such as critical time interventions will be could be part of that work. There was an update on the Community First Village, and maybe that would be a good topic for us to invite somebody to come talk to here at the coalition to hear what's the latest on the Community First Village. But a provider has been selected for the first phase of that project. That will be the Tacoma Rescue Mission. And they're doing two things in this first phase: feasibility study, and then addressing the development of the construction of the village. So there's still, as I understand it, search for the site, so where the actual property will be for this project. But yeah, let me see if I can get somebody, maybe Garrett, you can help point me in the right direction to bring somebody in to talk about the Community First Village and where things are at there. There was a lot of conversation about a pilot project to address transportation needs, $50,000 being used to work with Pierce Transit to offer additional Orca cards for folks who need transportation. And there are 5 agencies participating, issuing about 500 cards for a 1-year pilot. So that coming up. Regarding outstanding American Rescue Plan Act funding, there was conversation about the Shelter Access Hub, which was part of the plan, and an RFP coming out in late spring regarding that. So if you have an interest, you're working for an agency that has an interest, watch for an RFP coming there. Shelter expansion. There was just some discussion about, of course, the 82nd and Pacific site that Monique has been working on, and we're all eagerly awaiting the opening. The Rise site, which actually, also the 35th and Pacific site that the city is looking for the possibility of doing temporary shelter there for up to 50 people. And then the upcoming expansion of the Tacoma Rescue Mission for an additional 120 congregate beds. And the last item that we talked about was safe parking. It was just an overview of where things stand with the legislation regarding the safe parking ordinance that was vetoed by the county executive. And there was discussion about the work that Paula has been doing with additional potential church locations, and the contract that is in final process. So there was public comment during the meeting. I want to thank folks like Sally Perkins for weighing in during public comment, and yeah, that kind of covers what we did for a couple of hours last Friday. Those meetings currently are once a month on the first Friday of each month, and you can find the link to those meetings that can be attended by anyone on the county's comprehensive plan website. I'll put that link in the chat. So any questions about the current status of the comprehensive plan? And of course, Garrett beat me to putting the link in the chat. All right, so let me look back to my agenda to see what else we got. So speaking of safe sites for all, Jan, would you like to provide an update from your committee?
Well, I got so hot there, I had to take my sweater off. Let's talk about the goals now, because I feel that we've been thrown a new twist here. So because of a lack of knowing about mapping and how mapping is important in safe sites for all, the name of the committee is Safe Sites for All. It's open to everybody, including government, every Monday, noon. So we saw a gap in mapping and how outreach teams can find folks who actually need help to be safe. So we've done some internal work to generate interest in doing mapping. The response to the safe parking ordinance being vetoed by Mr. Danmeyer is a discussion, and people are hearing things individually. So we as a committee have not heard anything officially from council members as a group, but I want anybody to jump in here if they've had a personal conversation, because I do know that folks have had side conversations with their council people. The emergency network distribution. I've got a question. Joe Perva, you're here. Has anybody in county planning talked to you about the Lehigh site on Hosmer, Aspen Court, being a site for distribution during inclement weather?
Yeah, sorry. So my camera's all messing with it. Yeah. So we have, and I've already mentioned that before, that we would be more than happy to be a distribution site for, for supplies for inclement weather.
Right, but I talked to you about that personally, and you said yes. Has the county talked to you about that?
Nobody has specifically brought up any information, but aside from us here on the coalition.
That's my point. That's my point. Dion Jacobson, are you here from St. Vincent de Paul? You were here earlier.
It looks like Dion's left.
Okay, she left. She has told us as a group that she has churches that would be, throughout the county, able to be a distribution site. She's not been contacted by the county. EFN came through for us in both situations, and they were surprised that they were not contacted by the county in either situation, because they are part of monthly planning meetings. Yet when an emergency came, they were not contacted except by me. So, as far as I can tell, we can all go home because the county's taking care of it, right? That's just the insanity of it all. So I am confused as to why we are working so hard in safe sites for all. And let's get to a safe parking network. Paula Anderson is our safe sites or safe parking network manager. She was told by the county last year, back in December, that they would have the contract to continue on a successful pilot project. We did a pilot project with money quickly distributed from Greater Tacoma Community Foundation. We did safe parking network. It was successful. The county said they would do it, and to date, she's not been paid. We are in the middle of May. She's not been paid by the county. So I think we need to have to take care of communication issues, but I am frankly at a loss as to how we can go forward when there's been such poor communication with government, or let's just say a lack of direct response. I don't even know that if we come up with a list of emergency supplies and a list of distributors and a list of outreach workers, which we do, and a list of maps where folks are who are actually dying out there and losing their kidneys and fingers and all that, I don't know that we're going to get any reimbursement by the county. So I'll just shut up.
Jan, I appreciate your passion. I said that in the chat. I know Jeff has heard your voice today, so I am hopeful that there's going to be a meeting of the minds so that we can move forward in a productive way. Okay, so I'm going to take a deep breath and see if Rosemary has anything to share regarding other council committee updates.
I think the main thing I would say is that the governance committee is been given a new charge to think about policies around how we encourage groups that are looking for support from a variety of other organizations for grant requests they may be making, how we can do that as a group that doesn't have an organizational framework, and that also would not want, because we have people competing for different kinds of grants, we want people to have the opportunity to really say, we could use an endorsement from groups of people who share our background, our interests, our passion, our missions. And so we want to make that available through the coalition, but we're not quite sure what kind of policy we should have. So that's something we'll be working on in the next few weeks. And the Race and Equity Committee will be meeting on the third Thursday, which is next Thursday from 3 to 4. That will be on the coalition page for you to come if you'd like.
Thank you, Rosemary. And that brings us to an opportunity for folks to share announcements that would be good for the group of 42 folks who really care, who are still in today's meeting. So any announcements for the good of the order, good trouble we can get up to? Teresa.
This is just a quick response to some of the stuff about the safe parking thing, and perhaps it's for the good of the order. But Rosemary and I, and it sounds like Sally, attended the council meeting, the county council meeting, where they addressed a little bit safe parking. And I want to say, Jan, that I'm with you with the fact that it's really frustrating that things are not happening quickly, and that whole speed of government thing only satisfies so long, and for so many situations before it's just too hackneyed to be meaningful. I do know that there were several council members during that who were really advocating for pushing this through. It sounds like it's kind of stuck in the financial side of things. It's not stuck in terms of support. So I'm not saying be patient, because I don't think that your strong suit is patience. I think your strong suit is being fiery. But I do also want to say that we are not alone in this. And it's good to have Garrett with us pushing from his side. And we have Jeff with us who's pushing from his side. And I think we need to keep voicing this, but we also need to recognize that it's not that Heather Moss is trying to stop us from being funded. It's about the way the county government is set up to not be very efficient.
That is very diplomatic. Monique, I see your hand up.
Yes, thank you. Two things. The last time I was on the call, two ladies said they wanted to come get those stuffed airplanes from me. and no one has shown up. So if you're on here, please come get those airplanes so you can get them to the kids. The other thing, I got a donation last year. It was about a $44,000 donation of clothing. It is sitting in my storage in Puyallup, and it doesn't make any sense to be there. I have shoes, and I have lots and lots of jeans. Brand new, everything brand new. Shoes still in the boxes. So please reach out to me if you can use it and give it out to folks, because it makes no sense just sitting. Thank you.
Great. And anyone else with items for the good order? Erica, I know your mic is on if you wanted to say something.
No, I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure it out.
No problem. I'll just mute you. All right. So I actually wanted to add something to the end of every week's meetings going forward, and I think we mentioned this last week. I have not didn't line somebody up for this, but just wanted to provide an opportunity if folks have a success story, some good news that they would like to share at the end of this week's meeting, and plant the seed for doing similar at the end of all of our meetings going forward. I think we need to make sure we celebrate the good work that's happening and the progress that's being made. So I see Jan put her hand up, and I hope that's for some success.
It is. I heard your introduction. It's success. Back in January of 2021, this coalition did a major forum, and we invited people from government, from business, from nonprofits. We invited all the decision makers from throughout the county to voice what they see the problem is, what we see the problem is, and then to list what our needs would be in order to serve those who live homeless. It was a huge forum, well attended. As a result of that meeting in January of 2020, CHI Franciscan, now Virginia Mason CHI Franciscan, donated $5,000 for a street medic program. We used Tacoma Needle Exchange as our fiscal agent. And thanks to Richard Dorsett, who just showed up out of the goodness of his heart, we were able to come up with first aid kits to hand out to folks who are living in encampments or who are in the streets. We are now going to spend down the end of that $5,000. And as Richard says, when you do street encampment work, the number one thing that folks really appreciate are food, items of food. And the number two things is medical supplies. Now, these first aid kits are literally a bandage to a bigger problem, and the $5,000 is just a band-aid to a gigantic problem. But it is a success of this coalition, and it does increase engagement with folks living on the street. And for every wound that we can prevent furthering infection, that's one less 911 call. So thanks to Richard, thanks to this coalition, thanks to CHI Franciscan.
Thank you for that, Jan. And Serena, your hand's up.
Yeah, I do have a success story. One of my participants recently, on May 5th, which was my birthday, after several months of she's trying to get SSI and being denied, I hooked her up with a lawyer service, and on May 5th she was approved for her benefits, which is she's been living off $146 or whatever that small amount they get from ABD. So this is great. Made my birthday.
That's awesome. And those are both great examples of the things we would like to be able to share at the end of every meeting, and do what we can to call attention to the good work that's being done by folks who are attending these meetings. With a little luck, that can help provide some of that inspiration that we talked about during the breakout sessions. So we have come to the end of today's agenda. There's one more item, and that's an opportunity for folks to reflect on today's meeting and provide feedback regarding what worked, what didn't work, what could be done better next week. I invite folks to put that information in the chat, or you can also email me, and I will put my email in the chat as well if you'd like to get a hold of me that way. Because we want to keep improving these meetings going forward. Oops, and I didn't send that to everybody. Including maybe you need a better moderator. You know, so if anyone is willing to step up and facilitate occasionally, I would love to hear it. So thank you everyone for attending today. And
well, hands up, I think we have Rob.
Okay. Yeah, I see Monique's hands up. Oh, okay. Nope. That's an inadvertent hand, and that happens. And there's no flag on that play.
I forgot to lower it the last time. I'm sorry.
Yep. No problem. All right. So I hope everybody has a good weekend. I thank you all for being here and look forward to seeing you again next time. If you do have an interest in helping plan next week's meeting, we will have a group of us doing planning right after this, after we take a 5-minute break. So thanks, everybody.